Good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you guys. I hope you're doing particularly awesome today. We are at the final leg of the journey. Um, this is final exam review 1. Your final exam is worth 20% of your grade for the course, and that 20%, particularly for those who are on the border of passing or failing, and you do have the option to make up all your missing homeworks for late credit, which will get you back about half of the credit you would have lost, um, as well as show something about how important it is for you to pass the class. Um, it's time to really make sure that something positive happens. Now, look, most of the class is in a position where they're they're wondering about whether they're going to get an A or a B. Um, for those students with a lot of, remember, performance is a function of preparation, and with a lot of preparation, you will probably perform very well on the final, and you might be able to boost your grade from, say, a B plus to an A minus, which is really cool, or maybe from a C plus to a B minus, or from a B minus to a B, or maybe even a B plus. Um, but then there are those who are worried about possibly passing the class for the year, and listen, the cold hard fact is that unlike high school, college costs money. And when you don't get credit for a class, that means in the future you're going to have to spend more money. And I don't know about you, but I prefer when I get to keep my money. I don't prefer to let other people have my money. I don't know how people feel about that, but I definitely want to be able to um, move forward. And the other thing about the money is this: if you don't, if not passing classes means that you have to spend more time in college, then that's time when you could be making money. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that you spent a fifth year in college. If you spent a fifth year in college to get the same degree you could have had in 4 years, and I don't know, I have no idea how much Centenary University costs, but I'm going to guess the tuition is probably, I don't know, maybe $30,000. Not only do you lose that 30,000 because you have to pay the school that money, but you also lose the fact that you could have had a job based on your degree, and you could have been making $40,000 or $50,000, maybe more. So it's going to cost $70,000 or $80,000 or more to not graduate on time. So let's make sure that this happens and that we find a way to get you credit for the class, so that we know that you've progressed and you're moving closer to graduation. And ultimately, what a prospective employer wants to see in their future employee, the ones that they hire and give the jobs to, is that when there is a set of responsibilities before them, that they find a way to raise their level and meet that responsibility. That's the kind of person that they want to hire and compensate well, so that that person can have a big part in their company and make a whole lot of money. So when there's a history in a student's record of that not happening, schools hesitate, or I should say businesses hesitate, to hire such employees. So that's cold hard reality. And that said, because I know this, I make it a point to go out of my way to make sure that I provide my students with everything they need to succeed. And to that extent, every single question that's on your final exam is reflected in review sheet 1 and, or sometimes twice, sometimes once, review sheet 2. I give you the answer to all the questions, the answers to all the questions, and as usual, you typically make 1 or 2 sloppy mistakes per sheet, and I will make you aware of any mistakes I happen to make. But I also have this video playing for every single question that you're going to encounter. So you get 2 pre-tests, which are very, very, very like the final exam. You get videos on every single question that's on the final exam. Plus, you can email me, and I will get back to you as best I can about what's going on the test. And I will keep you updated by emailing you first when I think it is important to do that. Okay? So without any further ado, performance is a function of preparation. Let's make sure that we get you everything you need to do as well as you want to do. So number 1 says to convert 12.5 gallons to quarts. So this is a conversion question, and there's 2 ways to do conversions. In number 1, I'm going to do it one way, and then in a later question, I'll do it another way. What I note is that a gallon is bigger than a quart. So if I'm going from big to small, that means I have to multiply. And there's 4 quarts in a gallon. That's the factor. So 12.5 times 4 is 50 quarts. I'm yawning because over the last 2 days, I have driven pretty far to buy tons of trees and shrubs for my property, which I spent almost all of today planting, and I even transplanted another tree because ultimately we want our yard to be like a birdscaped, so that people can, or birds can, like make a home here. And my wife and I, we love to sit and have lunch on the porch, or maybe even breakfast on the porch, and watch the birds going about doing their thing for the day. We really enjoy that. That's what happens when you get old. And I understand that if I pay my dues now, then I get to reap the benefits for years and years and years. But if I keep putting off doing the birdscaping, then I never really get the benefits of it. It's a lot like that with schoolwork. If you pay the price now and you do the job now and you get it done now, you get to experience the benefits of it for many, many, many years to come. Okay, convert 5 pounds, 5 ounces to ounces. This time the factor is 16 because there's 16 ounces in a pound. And again, you're going from big to small, so you multiply. So 5 times 16 for the 5 pounds and 16 ounces in each pound, plus the 5 leftover ounces, is 85 ounces. John needed to cut weight for wrestling season. At the first practice, he weighed 161 at his first match, which is later on. He weighed 147 pounds. What was John's relative weight change? So it's always final minus original over original. So 147 is the final weight, and 161 was the original. So I subtract and I get negative 14. And I have to divide that by the original 161. And that amounts to a negative 9% loss. Yeah, speaking of percents, there's going to be one question on your test, which I personally think is among the easiest questions on the test. It's one of the easiest. It might not be the easiest. That is just a simple percent proportion type of problem. Percent over 100 equals part over whole. The word is indicates part and of indicates whole. So the first one, 3a, what is 14% of 150? So I noticed that the what is related to the is, it's linked to the is. So in the is place, the upper right here part, I put an n, 14%, so the 14 goes in the upper left. The 100 is always in the lower left, that never changes. And then of 150, and the of place is at the bottom. Cross multiplying, 100n is 14 times 150 is 2100. Dividing both sides by 100, n is equal to 21. Letter B, 19% of what is 47.5? Well, 19 is linked to percent, of is linked to what, and is linked to 47.5. So 19 goes in the upper left where the percent goes, 100 lower left. 47.5 is the is, that's in the top right, and then n is the of. Cross multiplying 19n is 4750, dividing by 19, and I get 250. Letter C, what percent of 40 is 28? So it says what percent, so now the n goes in the percent place in the upper left. Okay, 100 on the lower left, 28, because it's related or linked to is, and the 40 is the of. Cross multiplying, 40n equals 2800, dividing by 40, and I get n is 70. Number 4, convert 35 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. There's your formula, which you will need to know for your test. So if you don't have it in your phone, put it in there now. F equals 9/5 C plus 32. 35 degrees Celsius, so I put 35 in for C. You don't need to do it like I would. Like I would do it exactly as I wrote it here. 5 goes in 35 7 times. 8 times 7, 9 times 7, is 63. 63 and 32 is 95. But with you guys with calculators, you can just do 9/5 times 35 plus 32, and it'll tell you 95. And considering it's multiple choice, it's pretty straightforward. Now here's the other way to convert in number 5. A fish tank measures 6 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet. What's the volume to the nearest tenth of a cubic yard? So 6 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet. To get the volume, I'm going to do area of the base, which is 6 by 4, times the height, which is 3. That gives me 72 cubic feet. But it wants the answer in cubic yards. So I didn't put a little 3 up here on top of the feet cubed here. But that leaves me with 1 yard per 3 feet, 1 yard per 3 feet, and 1 yard per 3 feet because, as it says up here, 72 feet cubed, okay? So that's 72 times 1 times 1 times 1 divided by 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And if I do 72 divided by 27, I get rounded off 2.7 cubic yards. Okay. Number 6, Jim borrows $5,000 at 7% simple interest for 4 years. There are 2 ways they can ask the question, or that I can ask the question on this. The first way is I can ask about, hey, what's the interest? And the second way is, how much do you have to pay back? Those are 2 different questions. So for just interest, it's going to be I equals PERT. That's simple interest. Keyword simple there. P principal, R rate and interest in as a decimal, and time in years. So that's the principal is 5,000. The interest rate 7%, 0.07, and 4 is the years. 5,000 times 0.07 times 4 works out to be $1,400. Now, if I had asked how much do you pay back, you pay back the interest, but you also pay back the principal that you borrowed. So 5,000 plus 1,400 is 6,400. List some disadvantages and disadvantages of buying a house. Well, some advantages are it's a forced savings account. It's a hedge against inflation. It grows virtually tax-free, and you're building equity as you go along in the house. One of the other things that you can do is you can increase your credit rating with prompt payments. A disadvantage is that it's less expensive. Usually, renting is less expensive. And if you are renting, you can move. You get out of your lease every year or 2 or 3. Now, that can be an advantage or a disadvantage because, like my sons, they rented a house in Patchogue. And after about 4 years there, the owner of the home said, listen, I'm going to sell. So my sons had to get out and find a new place. And when you're happy where you are and you don't want to get out, well, that's not necessarily a good thing. But on the other hand, if you don't like something about the apartment and you want to change, it can be a good thing because then you can leave. Whereas if you buy a house, you have to sell the house and leave. And usually to make money on your house takes some time. Number 8, using the rule of 72, about how long would it take for you to double your money if you're earning 4%? Well, the rule of 72 says 72 divided by 4 gives you the number of years. 72 divided by the percent. So 72 divided by 4 is 18 years. Last one for this video, using the formula A equals P times 1 plus Rn to the NT or TN. That's a correction. How much would you have in the account after 25 years if you invest 10 grand at 12%? So the principal, P, is 10 grand. 12% is 0.12. So just plug it in the formula. 1 plus 0.12 over 12, which works out to, I believe, 1.01. And then the exponent is 12 times 25, which is 300. You just type it in the calculator as it appears. It'll tell you $197,884.66. Okay, time for me to make the next video.